I used to cry when they called me just their dad's wife. Now, I feel nothing. That morning in the hospital, when I heard Max and Sienna's words, so casual, so cold, it burned something out of me. Not love. No, I had loved them fiercely. But I lost the illusion. The illusion that love alone could protect you from betrayal. The next week, I stopped pretending. They didn't know I had already changed my medical proxy to Dahlia, my old friend from my college teaching days. She knew my history, my heart, and more importantly, my new plan. When Desmond passed away 2 years ago, I let the grief blind me. I thought if I kept the family together, kept his children close, it would be like keeping him close too. So I put their names in the trust. I even paid for Max's business school and Sienna's Paris semester. But now I saw what they really thought of me. 3 months later, the lawyer's office smelled like fresh wood polish and ink. Max sat across from me, checking his watch. Sienna sat beside him, eyes narrowed, legs crossed tightly like she had somewhere better to be. I don't understand, Max said. Why are we even here? I smiled gently. The estate has been finalized. The lawyer handed them a sealed envelope each. I watched as they tore them open. Max's lips moved as he read. Then he looked up, confused. What is this? Sienna's voice snapped. Wait, where's the property list? The stocks. The house. Gone, I said calmly. Liquidated. Reallocated. To who? Sienna shouted. To a foundation. Desmond and I had started it years ago. Education grants for kids who age out of foster care. We talked about it often. I just finally followed through. You can't do that. We're his children. Are you? I asked softly, because when I was fighting for my life, you two were fighting over how fast I'd die. They went quiet. The air buzzed with tension. I may not be your mother by blood or by papers, I continued, but I was there. I was the one who stayed. And you, I looked them in the eye, you decided I was disposable. So now, I've returned the favor. Sienna stood, furious. You'll regret this. No, I said, I regret waiting so long to choose myself. 6 months later, I walk into the sunlit atrium of the youth center, my name engraved on the donor plaque. A group of teens laugh over a chessboard, a girl waves at me from the reading nook, and Dahlia steps beside me holding 2 coffees. You okay? She asks. I smile. For the first time in a long time. Please take a second to like, share and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories like this one to life. Never forget, you get to choose who your real family is. The crash happened on a quiet Tuesday morning. No rain, no ice, no warning. Just a sharp curve at the end of Hollow Creek Road and a driver in the oncoming lane who didn't brake in time. The sound of metal folding, glass shattering, and then silence. I remember the stillness more than the pain. That strange, stretched moment after impact when it felt like the world had stopped spinning and I was still there, hovering somewhere between yesterday and nothing. I woke up 3 days later. Tubes in my arm, a brace on my neck. The nurse said I was lucky. Lucky. The word made me laugh. Quietly, painfully. Max and Sienna were already in the hospital by then. They had been called as next of kin, because despite everything, despite the way they'd pulled away, I'd never taken them off the emergency contact form. I remember hearing the nurse whisper, "Her children are here." It almost gave me hope. Almost. But the first words I heard from Max weren't filled with worry or love. They were cold, practical. She doesn't even have a real will, he said. Dad never updated anything. We don't even know what we're entitled to. Sienna responded like I was a spreadsheet. I just hope she doesn't make it, she said. The estate's almost ready anyway. They thought I was asleep. Unconscious. Dying. They didn't know I heard every word. And in that sterile white room with machines beeping behind me, I realized something deeper than pain. I had given them my best years. My heart. My home. My name. But they had never really given me theirs. Not truly. The crash didn't break me. What broke was the lie I had clung to, that love alone was enough. That lie died in that hospital bed. 2 weeks after I was discharged, I called my lawyer. Are you sure? He asked gently, tapping the stack of revised documents in front of me. I nodded. I want everything transferred. The house, the savings, the investments, all of it. To who? To someone who never left my side, I said. Dahlia. Dahlia had visited me every single day after the crash. She brought fresh flowers. She made sure the nurses respected my dietary preferences. She combed my hair when I couldn't lift my arms. And when she thought I was sleeping, I caught her praying softly beside my bed. She wasn't my blood, but she was more family than Max and Sienna ever were. When I told her what I'd done, her eyes filled with tears. You didn't have to do that, she whispered. I know, I said. But I wanted to. The final conversation with Max and Sienna happened over lunch in my garden. I made the same tea I used to serve them when they were small. Max sat with his sunglasses on, arms crossed. Sienna scrolled on her phone. I wanted to talk, I said gently. About the house, Max asked. I nodded. Among other things. Sienna didn't look up. We assumed it would just pass to us. I know you did, I replied. But I changed my mind. That made her look up. I've updated everything, I said calmly. The house, the accounts, it's all going to someone else. What? Max's voice cracked. You can't be serious. I am. But we're your children. You were, I said, not cruelly, just truthfully. When you wanted to be. You're punishing us, Sienna said, voice sharp. No, I said, I'm protecting myself. You made it clear where I stand in your lives. Now I'm doing the same. They left without finishing their tea. I sat in the garden alone, surrounded by the flowers I planted, drinking the last sip with a steady hand. For the first time in years, I felt free. Letters every Christmas. I told Russell, if anything happens to me, it all goes to April. He raised an eyebrow. All of it. Yes, I said firmly. The house, the accounts, the insurance. Everything. He didn't ask why. He just nodded, tapped his pen gently against the folder, and said, I'll draw up the paperwork. Do you want them? Max and Sienna notified. Not yet, I said. They'll find out when they need to. Back then, I wasn't sure I'd go through with it. I kept second-guessing myself. Was I overreacting? Was I being paranoid? But the moment I heard them standing over my hospital bed, cold, emotionless, discussing the estate like I was already 6 feet under, every doubt disappeared. Now, weeks later, I sat in my favorite chair by the window, recovering slowly. My bones ached, but my spine, metaphorically, had never been stronger. Dahlia came by that afternoon with a pot of soup and a folder of mail. She glanced at me as she handed over a stack of envelopes. You okay? She asked softly. I nodded. Getting stronger every day. She watched me a moment longer. They haven't called again. I shrugged. They only ever called when they wanted something. There was a long pause. Then I said it out loud, for the first time. I think they tampered with the car. Dahlia's face tightened. She sat down across from me, slowly. You're sure? I can't prove it, but they both had access. Both times, the car came back off. The crash, it wasn't random. I felt it. Silence settled between us like a third presence in the room. Then Dahlia said, You're not crazy. I believe you. I felt tears spring to my eyes, and I looked out the window, blinking them away. They think I'm weak, I said. They think I'm done. What are you going to do? She asked. I turned to her. Voice calm, solid. I already did it. 2 days later, they showed up. Max and Sienna rang the bell like nothing had happened. I watched them from the camera at the front door before I buzzed them in. They walked into the living room with fake smiles, looking around like they were already measuring the place for renovation. Max grinned. Hey, Joanna, how are you feeling? Better, I said, not offering a hug. Sit. They sat, slowly. Sienna crossed her legs, all polished sarcasm and false charm. So, she began, we figured we should start talking about long-term care. You're still healing, and we want to make sure you're, okay. How thoughtful, I replied, folding my hands. But no need. Everything is taken care of. Max tilted his head. Taken care of how? I stood and walked to the table, picked up the thick envelope Russell had delivered the day before, and dropped it gently in front of them. "What's this?" Sienna asked, suspicious. "Read it." Max opened it first. His hands slowed the further he read. Sienna leaned over, eyes narrowing. This is a will," she said. "Yes. Where's our name?" Max asked, flipping pages. "It's not there," I said quietly. "But, the house, the accounts, all gone to someone else. Someone who never expected anything but gave me everything. You can't do this," Sienna snapped. "We're family." I smiled, sharp and clear. "You were family, when it suited you." Then came the final piece, my performance. I practiced the limp, the frail voice, the shaky hands. I pretended to sleep while they whispered around me like I was furniture. They didn't know the tubes were out because I requested they be placed only for show. They didn't know the oxygen mask was off hours ago. And they certainly didn't know that I recorded everything they said in that room with a tiny mic Clara had pinned inside the sleeve of my robe. "I don't think she'll make it another month," Sienna had said softly, standing at the foot of my hospital bed. Max muttered, "If she does, she can't take care of herself. We'll have to push for guardianship." "You mean control," Sienna had laughed. "She's had her fun with the family fortune. It's time she sat back and let the real family take over." I felt every syllable, not like a wound, but like a blueprint. Their greed was no longer hidden. It was loud, clear, documented. 2 weeks later, I asked Elliot to send them both a message. Not through lawyers, not through court, through me. They arrived at my home on a rainy Tuesday evening. The lights were dim, the fireplace crackled softly, and I was sitting up straight in the armchair wearing my silk robe. Not sick, not dying, very much alive. They froze in the doorway. "Joanna," Max blinked. "You're standing," Sienna said, stepping inside cautiously. "I never stopped," I said calmly. "I just needed time." Sienna smiled weakly. "We're glad you're better. We wanted to talk about the future." I held up one hand. "Sit." They obeyed, out of habit, maybe. Or fear. "Before we begin," I said, "I'd like to play something." I clicked a button on my phone, and the recording began to play. Their voices filled the room, every cold word from the hospital playing back through the speaker. Max's face turned pale. Sienna looked like she might choke. I paused the recording midway. "I'm not here to argue," I said, calm as the rain outside. "You've made yourselves very clear. And now, so have I." I slid a copy of the new will across the table. They didn't touch it. "Who is April?" Max asked after a long silence. "She's someone who loved me without conditions. Who showed up. Who held my hand when I had the flu, when Desmond died, when you both disappeared." Sienna's voice was sharp. "This is revenge." "No," I said. "This is clarity." Max leaned forward. "So we get nothing." I nodded. "You get nothing from me. But you're free to build something for yourselves. You're both adults now. Earn it." The rain fell harder as they left. Clara arrived a few minutes later with tea, her eyes full of quiet satisfaction. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded, staring at the fire. "I'm finally free. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring real, emotional stories to life. And always remember, love given freely deserves respect, not entitlement." Heart. Driveway in a sleek silver sedan. He stepped out slowly, adjusting his tie like this was just another Tuesday. "Can I help you?" he asked, voice calm but clipped. Tyler turned around, agitated. "This is our house. We're here to get inside." The man didn't even flinch. "You're not listed on the deed. And as of last week, the property was transferred to the Hart Trust under full legal protection." Sienna, still calling herself Emily back then, stepped forward. "She's our stepmother. We're entitled to access. There must be a mistake." He pulled out a folder and flipped it open. "I have the signed will, the updated trust, and the standing court order. If you try to enter the home again, the police will be called." Tyler's mouth opened, then closed again. "This is ridiculous. She would never." "Actually, she did," Russell's man said. "She planned everything down to the minute. You can take it up with her attorney if you like. I'll give you the number. He handed over a business card and turned to walk back to his car. Sienna's voice rang out behind him, sharp and shaking. We'll fight this. You can try, he said without turning. But you'll lose. She made sure of it. From Grace's attic, I watched them pace the yard like it still belonged to them. I didn't smile, not out of cruelty, but because it wasn't joy I felt. It was justice. The quiet, heavy kind that sits in your bones and says, "You are safe now." Clara was beside me, folding up the quilt around my legs. "They don't know who they were dealing with," she murmured. "They thought they did," I whispered back. "They thought I was just someone they had to outwait." She tilted her head. "And now they wait for nothing." That night, I sat by Grace's little window, sipping tea and reading April's latest letter. She'd drawn a sketch of her shelter's new wing, the one the estate funds would finish building. There were cots, fresh blankets, a book corner. A quote at the bottom read, "Every woman deserves to feel safe in her own home." I traced the words with my finger and closed my eyes. Maybe I hadn't been their real mother. But I had become the protector I always needed someone to be for me. And now, finally, I had passed that gift on. That night at Second Bloom, I sat on the porch in one of the old wooden chairs, blanket across my knees, a cup of ginger tea cradled in my palms. The stars above looked clearer than they had in years, maybe because there was nothing left clouding my view. Rosa stepped out and joined me in silence. After a while, she said, "You look lighter." "I feel it," I said. She nodded. "That kind of freedom, it costs something." I looked down at the tea. "Everything. And was it worth it?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the last envelope Russell had sent. Not for Max. Not for Sienna. For me. Inside was a simple sheet of paper with the final line from my revised trust. In the event of survival, all rights revert to the original grantor, Joanna Hart Pierce, to do with as she pleases. I smiled. "Yeah," I whispered, "it was worth it." If this story made you feel seen, understood, or inspired, please like, share and comment below. There are people silently enduring what they think they have to survive alone. Let this be a message, you are not alone. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories of healing, justice, and starting again, on your terms. Herb.